What's up, travel lovers? Welcome back. This is episode 3 on my Camino de Santiago special, doing the northern route, or the Camino del Norte. This episode will cover days 11 through 15, starting off here in Laredo and hopefully making it all the way to Colombres. Today is a beautiful day, so let's get hiking.
On day 11, I would leave Laredo and arrive to Güemes, covering roughly 29 kilometers and approximately 300 meters of elevation. I decided to do a quick walk around Laredo before getting back on the trail and walking along the beach for a few kilometers until reaching El Punta. From here, I would grab a ferry that would take me to Santander. It was a short ride, but one that saves you a lot of walking. Just be aware that the ferry does not operate in winter. As soon as I arrived to Santander, I was met with the Juan de la Cosa historical monument, whom was a famous cartographer from the 15th century. Then I followed signs to meet me back up with the Camino. Within a few blocks, I was out of town, and in less than a couple kilometers, I would be on Playa de Berria, a beautiful beach with not a soul on it. I walked across the beach and then started into a dense treed area that had me climbing a steep 100 meters. From the top, I could see a new beach, and in the distance was another seaside town. I would hike down to the new beach and would have almost 3 kilometers of walking on sand before arriving to Noja. The trail would take me right past the San Pedro church and a few kilometers later passing by a parish in the town of Isla. Today's journey had a great mix of everything, even baby goats and other friendly farm animals. The sun was beginning to set, and I was nearly to my endpoint. The next morning, I left the Casa Rural and the small town of Güemes. It was a beautiful day, and I was excited to see what was ahead of me. On day 12, I would leave Güemes and arrive to Santander, covering roughly 14.7 kilometers and 100 meters of elevation. Today was going to be one of the easiest days of the Camino del Norte. I would start off in rural landscape with farmland all around me. But in 4 kilometers, I would reach the town of Galicia that was just off the coast. For the next 10 kilometers, I would walk near the coast, passing some breathtaking beaches and cliff walls. I couldn't have asked for better weather. After a little more than 6 kilometers, I would come near the town of Laredo. From here, I would walk almost 2 kilometers on Playa de Somo. All that was left was to jump on a ferry, and it would take me the rest of the way. A really great way to finish the day's hike, and a great way to see Cantabria's capital and largest city. The boat ride took about 30 minutes and cost €2.85. This is a good time to explain that there is actually many paths to the Camino. None are better than the others, some are just more convenient, depending on your fitness level. The other option would be to walk around the bay, adding almost 20 kilometers to the day's hike. I personally love boat rides, so I chose taking the ferry, but you're free to take whichever path suits you. I arrived to Santander and was instantly met with stunning architectures, plazas, and monuments. I went from walking without a human in sight to being surrounded by people. I explored the city for a while and then headed to my accommodation. I started today's journey bright and early as I had a pretty good amount of distance to cover. On day 13, I would leave Santander and arrive to Torrelavega, covering roughly 33 kilometers and approximately 300 meters of elevation. I walked through Santander, and in a few kilometers, I had made it to the suburbs. Even though I was walking through busy areas, there were lots of sign markers to keep me on the trail. I would eventually be walking next to a busy highway and even passing a sign just for peregrinos, telling me I only had 560 kilometers until Santiago de Compostela, which meant I had covered almost 300 kilometers already. Then I came to the Paz River. I followed it for a while, going through some more small towns and farmland. There was a lot of paved walking today, but there was still the occasional slice of nature. Nature was easily my favorite thing about doing the Camino so far. Tonight, I would actually get off the Camino at Laredo. From here, I would go 2 kilometers south to sleep in the town of Torrelavega, as it had more accommodation options. The next day, I left Torrelavega and made my way back to the Camino. On day 14, I would leave Torrelavega and arrive to Comillas, covering roughly 29 kilometers and approximately 450 meters of elevation. I left super early because I wanted to spend some extra time in Santander del Mar, a beautiful medieval town about 6 kilometers away with several things worth exploring. Less than an hour and a half later, I would arrive. This town is so picturesque, I highly recommend to at least just walk along its cobblestone streets, but you could also stop at some of its attractions. If you have the time, be sure to see the Altamira Cave Museum, famous for its prehistoric cave drawings dating back some 36,000 years. Now I still had 22 more kilometers, so I decided to start hiking and make my way towards the end point of the day.
Update peregrinos, it is day 14, which means I am almost 40% done with the Camino del Norte. So far it has been fantastic. The last 2 days I've been walking pretty much on pavement, which is a little hard on the feet and the joints, but the good side of it is I'm seeing a lot more Spanish people and observing some of the culture of the small towns throughout Cantabria and through this whole region. Well, I better keep hiking if I'm gonna make my endpoint today.
At the bottom of the hill, I came to the town of Oreña, and eventually to the Ermita de San Pedro. It was open, so I entered. I was the only pilgrim. The only other person was a volunteer that explained to me the history of the Ermita and even gave me a gift to remind me of my journey. A Camino scallop shell to be worn on my backpack, a symbol that is easily seen nearly every couple kilometers on the journey. But now, I was wearing the symbol. I would continue to walk through the countryside, passing a few more small towns and reaching the coast again around sunset, finally making it to Comillas at nightfall. The next morning, I woke up and explored the old city center of Comillas, as well as peeked at the town's most famous home, El Capricho, a villa designed by Spain's most famous architect, Antonio Gaudí, in 1883. If you have extra time, I definitely suggest taking more than a peek. Unfortunately, I needed to start making my way to a new region of Spain. Tonight, I would enter into Asturias. On day 15, I would leave Comillas and arrive to Colombres, covering roughly 29 kilometers and approximately 600 meters of elevation. It was hard to believe that today was going to be my last day in Cantabria. Today was excellent weather for hiking. Not hot or cold, very fresh. A little more than 10 kilometers later, I reached Playa La Rabia, which looked more like an estuary, but shortly after it, I came to Playa Oyambre, where I could see surfers enjoying the waves. A couple kilometers later, and I was walking on the soft sand of Playa de Guerra, and would continue all the way to Playa Saint Vincent de la Barquera. At the end of the beach, I would cross the bridge into the town of Saint Vincent de la Barquera. From here, I headed inland, walking through some really amazing nature, the perfect way to end my time in Cantabria. A couple hours later, the sun was setting and I was nearing my endpoint.
I just made it to the Deva River. That over there is Asturias, which means day 15 is complete, and unfortunately, Episode 3 of the Camino del Norte is now done. If you have any questions about the last few days of the trip, hit me up in the comment box below. I would be glad to help you plan your Camino. Until next time, safe travels.
Don't leave yet. There's tons of great videos to keep watching. More importantly, did you subscribe yet?